Welcome back to the Sugar Daddy Show. As promised, as threatened, I decided to sit down today and kind of give, I guess, an overview of what went on, like last year and where I was, what happened, if anybody cares. I know I've got like 11 subscribers and probably 7 of you give a shit. But if you do, thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in. And I didn't feel like I owed anybody an explanation, but I wanted to give an explanation just so it's out there, just so it's known or whatever. And I think if it's kind of like with things that have happened in the news recently, I think that if this information is out there, or if my experience is out there, maybe it'll help someone in the future possibly. So on with this story. So basically, in short, to sum everything up, my mother passed away last year. This is 2019. She passed away in March of 2018, and that's kind of basically what happened. So, see you, bye. No, I'm joking. There was a lot more than to it, just that. It was a sudden thing. Beginning in 2016 and 2017, my mother, she had been feeling just off, like health-wise, and she had gone to the doctor. She'd gone to the doctor a couple times, and they found cancer in her gallbladder, and a tumor in her gallbladder. And however your gallbladder sits, I can't remember if it's your gallbladder sits on, if your liver sits on top of your gallbladder or vice versa, but however it was, she had her gallbladder removed, and she had a slice of her liver taken out just as a precaution. And from that point, she started in on like 3 rounds of chemo. This was 2017. This was like pretty much all of 2017 was this going on. So she went through the 3 rounds of chemo, just as a precaution, again, just to make sure nothing had spread or anything like that. And she finished the chemo, and early last year, 2018, late January, very early February, she was basically given the all clear from her doctor. I don't know if that's not technically remission, because it hadn't spread anywhere else. It was just in her gallbladder, and they had removed that. So I don't know if that's really remission or if it's just cancer-free. I don't know. Whatever. But my mother, she had been her whole life, obviously I'm black, African-American, however, Negro, whatever makes you feel good. She had suffered from sickle cell anemia, like her whole life. She had the disease. It wasn't just like a carrier or something like that. She actually had the disease, and she would get these flare-ups. A few times a year, she would get like these really horrible flare-ups, and it was joint pain is what she would have to deal with. So with the joint pain, she would basically do ibuprofen and bed rest on her own. Like, she just knew what was going on, so she would just do those things and just kind of take care of herself. So back to last year, late January or whatever, she had been cleared from the chemo, and February rolls around, or she had been cleared from the cancer, I'm sorry, done with the chemo, cleared of the cancer. February rolls around, and her and my dad had gone out on Valentine's Day, had gone out for dinner, just to, like, her favorite place or whatever, just to get out. They went out more than I do. So they ended up coming over, visiting. My kids were sick after dinner. They ended up coming over to visit, and my kids had been sick, and so we didn't want, my mom was still recovering from the chemo, basically still getting her immune system back up. We didn't want her like inside the house to, whatever. So the kids were able to go outside, speak to her while she was sitting in the car and everything. And while she was in the car, she was complaining about her leg hurting, her right leg, rubbing it or whatever. And, she was old, like 68. So, aches and pains, a normal thing. The weather in February isn't the best, especially if you're, if you're older, well, for her anyway, with the joint pain and stuff like that. And so she had been, rubbing her leg. She was like, oh, I'm just going to, it's probably nothing. I'm just going to go home and ibuprofen and bed rest, basically. Because that's just what she did. So she goes home. I think Valentine's Day last year, 2018, was a Wednesday or a Tuesday. I'm not sure. I know it was in the middle of the week. And I think Friday afternoon, I was at work, and I got a call from my dad. My dad's like, "Hey, mom's in the hospital." I'm like, "Okay, what's wrong?" And he was like, "Well, she's in pain. They don't know exactly what's wrong. They just know she's in a lot of pain. Like her joints, she can't like walk around or anything like that, but they're not sure exactly what it is." So he was like, "Well, she's been in the hospital. She came in a couple days ago, and I think this was Friday when he called me. The Friday after Valentine's Day, he called me. He was like, if we're in the hospital. We're at Hillcrest Hospital, Northeast Ohio. If you came up here, I think it would be a good thing for her to see you, just kind of get her spirits up and everything like that." And I'm like, "That's cool. I'm off." I was off the next day. I was like, my wife has got some stuff to do in the morning. Once she's done home, I'll come to the hospital. I'll sit with you guys for a little bit. So he's like, "Okay, that'd be great." So the next day, I go up there, and I'm going to be interjecting, I guess. So, like going through all this stuff with her gallbladder and the cancer stuff and everything like that, my mom and we'd always joked, or it was like, she'd go to the hospital or go to the doctor, and they'd find something else wrong. And I joked with her, I was like, "You got to stop going to the hospital, because every time you go, they find something wrong with you." We would laugh about it or whatever. And it was just kind of like our thing. So I go to the hospital on this Saturday when I'm off, and my mom, she's sitting up in her bed or whatever. My dad's there, one of my mom's friends is there, and I joke with my mom, I'm like, "See, you went back to the hospital, and look, they found something else," and she was able to laugh and joke about it. She was lucid, everything like that. So I'm standing there, and we're talking, everybody's kind of like in the room is talking, nurses are coming in and out or whatever. And at one point, I think my dad looked over and he realized that my mom, even though she was following the conversation with her eyes, she hadn't really spoken up in a while. She hadn't said anything. She was still kind of looking back and forth at us, but she wasn't saying anything. We called the doctor in, called the nurse in. The nurse comes in, and they were like, it looks like a stroke. The nurse was. They were like, this looks like a stroke. I'm going to call up the resident. I don't know what they are, the levels of whatever. So the nurse calls, the doctor comes in, they do the test. They literally do, like if you've seen the billboards that say "fast" on them, that's what they literally do in the hospital. They look at her face. They ask her to smile. They held her arms up and, see if one droops or whatever. They ask her to speak, just say some basic things. And, they just kind of like asked us, when did you notice that she was kind of getting quiet? They basically do that same thing, and the doctor was like, "Yeah, this is, definitely positively probably a stroke." And so they were just like, basically like, "Take her to ICU right now." And from her room to ICU, walking down, and it wasn't like, like sometimes you go to the hospital and they say, "Okay, yeah, we're going to take you here," and an hour later they're finally coming to get you. No, this was like, get her to ICU, and within a couple minutes they were taking her down there. So probably from the time that the doctor left until the time we got to the ICU was maybe 5 minutes or so. Not a very short time in hospital standards. From the time we left the room to the time we got to the ICU, she was basically unconscious for all intents and purposes. She was still, her eyes were still open and everything, but she was not responding to anything. Like from just the short walk from that room down to the ICU. So, like I said, she was at Hillcrest, Cleveland Clinic Hospital. She was in there for a couple days, and they were treating her for a stroke. Blood thinners, whatever I don't know. I'm not a doctor, so whatever they do. And I hate to say luckily, a bed opened up, because I know, like, when a bed opens up in an ICU unit, it means someone's died, basically. For all, I mean, like, yeah, there's a chance they survive, but usually when they say a bed opens up, someone's passed away, someone's died. So she was at Hillcrest Hospital here, one of the satellite campuses of Cleveland Clinic, for a couple days, and a bed opened up the main campus of the Cleveland Clinic down in University Circle. So they transported her down there to the ICU down there, and they continued to treat her as it was a stroke. Running tests, doing everything like this, and nothing was working. Like at one point, I think they did like the test or whatever, like squeeze my hand or blink or whatever. And at one point, she was able to respond, but that was kind of it. From that point on, it just kind of like got worse or whatever. And they found out that she was having like these mini strokes, these mini, I don't know, there was a term that they kept saying, like these little episodes where she was having these mini strokes, and nothing was getting better. And so what they finally figured out is like, and why I mentioned the Cleveland Clinic is because when they say they have world-class care, it's crazy. Like people come from all over the world to go to the Cleveland Clinic here in Cleveland, Ohio, which is an odd thing to me, like because it's Cleveland, but people literally do. They travel from all over the world just to come here for the care. So you know that you're in good hands if you go to the Cleveland Clinic. So they're doing everything they can for the time that they can, and I think it was like one doctor had like read a random paper at one point, like years before, that linked sickle cell and strokes, like just randomly, like somebody just passing through or whatever, and they were able to find that paper or whatever it was, and from that paper they found out that when you have sickle cell throughout your life, sickle cell itself, you get like plaque deposits on your veins, on your arteries, just like cholesterol, like high cholesterol. So sickle cell coupled with like a not optimal diet can build those plaque levels up even higher. So basically what they discovered was that through a lifetime of sickle cell and a lifetime of eating what she wanted, plaque had broken off down in her leg where she was rubbing it when she had come over. A piece had broken off and had traveled up, and it had caused a stroke in her brain. And that was basically why the blood thinners, the normal treatment or whatever, wasn't working for the stroke. It wasn't helping anything like it should have been. It was kind of baffling everybody until the one doctor remembered this paper. So again, I guess long story short, she was in the ICU for a while. They kept doing the tests, and they kept realizing she was continuing to have these strokes, these smaller like episodes or whatever. And it was never her wish to be a vegetable, and that's a medical term, so don't get all upset. But it was like actually, it was never her. She never wanted to be a vegetable. So the decision was made. My dad sat us all down, our family down, and the decision was made to take her off the ventilator and move her to the hospice care. So that was done, and within about, I think it was like 4 days after that or so, they explained what would happen and kind of like what to look for as she was getting ready to pass away. Over the course of about 4 days that happened, and she passed away in March. It was, almost a month to the day. I think it was like March 4th or something like that, where she actually like passed away. So that's where I was. That's why there were no videos or anything like that. Leading up to that, with the cancer and everything dealing with that, I don't have a computer personally. My daughter has a computer, my wife has a computer, but I personally didn't have a computer. So what I was doing is whenever I record something, a video, I would go to my parents' house. I would use their Mac, their iMac, their desktop Mac, I don't know. Do all my editing there, and at my parents' house. And when the cancer stuff started happening, when my mom got sick and was going through all that, I didn't want to be over there for 4 hours ignoring them. So I kind of just put that on hold, and just whenever I go over there, I'd spend that time with my parents. And then, like I said, 2017, I think. My mom decided to buy my daughter a MacBook for Christmas, and still wasn't doing anything with it. My daughter was making videos, but I wasn't doing anything with it. And then my mom passed away, and it was kind of like, getting the urge to do it was just like, whatever. So Yeah, that's kind of what happened. That was like all year. Like I think I mentioned in one of the videos, a couple of videos ago maybe or something. I mentioned barring any personal tragedies or something like that. I was kind of trying to get back into it, and well, that's the personal tragedy. Um, if I seem okay with it, don't be offended. I love my mother and everything. It's just that like the whole course of it. Like I said, she had the stroke. I think it was like the 17th or 18th of February of last year, and she didn't pass away like officially, I guess, until March. But as you're going through that almost a month process of going to the hospital every day or going to my parents' house every day and hearing these updates, and you see the same nurses and the same doctors every day, you ready yourself for it. So in your mind, you're kind of making you're grieving, and you're kind of getting through with that. And with also, in addition to that, like I said, it was like almost a month. It was like 3 weeks or something like that, where family members were finding out, friends, my mother's friends were finding out, my dad's friends were finding out, and they were coming into town. And so like every other day or so, every couple of days, there'd be new grief that I was having to deal with. Well, not just me, but I was there at the hospital pretty much every day that I was having to deal with. Like someone would come in and they hadn't seen her, or they didn't know, what she looked like, and to see her in the ICU, this person now is got fresh grief because they were just seeing her. But I had been there for a week, every day, and seeing it, and so, and then they'd leave or go back home, not able to stay, obviously, but someone else would come in, and they'd bring their fresh grief, and then they'd leave, and then someone else would come in and they'd bring their fresh grief, and it was kind of the whole time, the whole month. That's what it was. It was just like people grieving to the point where almost like, I don't know if it might be bad to say it, but it was to the point where I got tired of it. Like I got tired of it. I ended up going back to work for just a couple days, and it was like probably one of the best decisions because and I know it's an odd thing, but it was like I wasn't at the hospital. I was at work. I was having to deal with that, and in law enforcement, you flip a switch. When you're at home, I'm dad, and I'm the husband or whatever. But when I'm at work, I'm a police officer, and going to work, having to flip that switch and having to like kind of push all that stuff out of my head, it worked wonders just for those couple days that I was there. Nobody bugged me. Everybody knew what was going on, so nobody was like bugging me about it or anything like that. They just kind of left me alone to patrol and do whatever I needed to do. But it was really helpful, and so, just being able to get away from other people's grief for a while. And again, that sounds horrible, but it is what it is. But so that's where I am. That's my story. That's kind of, I guess that's all there is to it. There's other things involved with that, like weird things. Both my mother and I, we both believe in the supernatural. So there's some things that are kind of weird that have happened since then. I'll probably get into those like further on down the road. I like telling ghost stories, so I'll probably get into like just weird kind of creepy things going on. I guess people ask me, like a few people have asked me, they're like, "Oh, doesn't it piss you off because your mom was at Cleveland Clinic? Cleveland Clinic is like one, if not the best, one of the best hospitals in the world. And your mom had a stroke in the hospital with a doctor, right there. Like, doesn't that kind of tick you off?" And I'm just like, no, it doesn't, because it doesn't. Like, the way I think, I'm not a very spiritual person. I believe in the supernatural, ghost or whatever you want. I believe in spirits, but like the supernatural itself, no. Or I'm sorry, the spiritual things themselves. I'm like, no, not really. But in my head, I'm just kind of like, things happen for a reason. Like, there's a reason why everything happens. Like, that's why I mentioned that we had been joking, my mother and we had been joking previously about her going to the hospital, because the last time I had seen her before that was Valentine's Day, that Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. And then I saw her that Saturday, And I mentioned that because I was able to joke with her. She was awake, she was lucid enough, long enough for me to be there and see her. If that, and to like, to share that with her, to like, as opposed to just like showing up and she's already had the stroke and she's already there. I was able to speak to her before she left, if that makes sense. So I kind of think that's like, that's the supernatural side. I guess I can just go ahead and, like, so there was that. I was able to get there. It was literally like half an hour. Like, my wife, like, she had stuff to do. She came home. She wasn't rushing. I just told her, I was like, I've got all day. I can just go whenever. Don't rush. And she got back, and I was still able to get up there to the hospital and see her, like half an hour before she actually had the stroke, which was cool. So there's that, and then, but every family has people that, you're not able to travel. It was like a month-long process. I didn't expect family to be there for a month, or to be here for a month without, because people have jobs, they have things to do. But everyone who was trying to get here to see my mother before she passed away was able to get here. If that's, what I'm saying, like anybody who called up and said, you know, I'm booking a flight, can I stay, wherever. Everyone who was doing that was able to do it. And it's odd because nobody missed out. The last person to get up here was my mother's oldest sister, and she was able to get here. She lives in Florida. She was able to get here, and within within 24 hours, my mom passed away, and she was the last person who was trying to get here. So for that's kind of just, things. So things happen for a reason. I've got like a bigger view of things, and that's, to me, that's cool. The fact that, even though, yeah, she had the stroke, for all intents and purposes, she was not there. Everyone who wanted to come and say goodbye while she was still alive was able to do that. So, am I mad at the Cleveland Clinic? No, I'm not mad at the Cleveland Clinic, because, shit happens for a reason. That's just that's just life, I guess. Yeah. So that's it for now. I hope to get, again, back into the videos and everything like that and making stuff. I just wanted to put this out there, that, like I said, to kind of put it out in the air. So remember the billboards, the F.a.s.t. billboards. Sometimes there's nothing you can do, but sometimes there is. It might save a relative's life. I guess that's my PSA for the day. So, yeah, leave comments or whatever if you got any questions or anything like that. Ask them. Don't be rude, obviously. Don't be an asshole. I always say that. I've already got an asshole. I don't need another one. So yeah, until I catch you next time, thanks for watching, and see ya. Bye.